The coffee mug was still warm in my hands, but I hadn't taken a sip. I just held it, letting the ceramic heat press into my palms while my eyes stayed fixed on the group chat I'd opened for the third time that morning. No new messages, no invites, no jokes, no "you coming tonight" like there used to be, just silence thick and dry as toast crust. That was the 10th day in a row. And I used to be the one they called first. I should back up a bit. My name's Ray, 36, HVAC tech by trade, weekend softball warrior, dependable uncle to two hyper nieces who think I'm cooler than I actually am, or used to think. These days I'm not really sure. A year ago, I was a regular at Murphy's, a corner bar that smelled like burnt citrus and fried chicken, with exactly one working TV and two bartenders who knew your story better than your therapist ever could. That place was my second home, maybe my first if I'm being honest. I could walk in any night and get a round of high fives, ribbing about the game, a cold pint sliding my way before I even sat down. But none of those guys, not Pete, not Darren, not even my cousin Kyle, showed up when I hit my 1 year sober mark. Not even a text. The thing is, quitting drinking wasn't some dramatic rock-bottom explosion. There were no DUIs, no drunken fights, no teary ultimatums. It was quieter than that. Slower. Like the time I missed my niece Emily's recital because I passed out on the couch at 6 p.m. after just 2 beers. Or how I'd laugh off the fact that I couldn't remember half of Thanksgiving dinner again. Or when my buddy Chris got married, and I only knew the reception by the photos because I blacked out somewhere between the shrimp cocktail and the DJ calling my name. It crept in like mold behind drywall. I was functioning technically but numb, always tired, foggy, short-tempered, and I started seeing myself from the outside, how my sister looked at me, how my boss started triple-checking my timesheets, how my reflection in the bathroom mirror started feeling like a stranger I was slowly disappointing. I made the decision on a random Tuesday. That's how boring it was, no crash, no tears, just, I think I'm done with this. And I was. Or I thought I was. The first few weeks were rough, not in the shakes and sweats kind of way, but socially. You'd think more people would be proud of you when you say, "Hey, I'm trying to better myself." But what I got was mostly awkward pauses and watered-down support, the kind where they say, "Oh nice, man," while already looking at their phone, or they go quiet because now they feel weird drinking around you. I didn't expect a parade, but I also didn't expect silence. One Friday night about 3 months into being dry, I walked into Murphy's just to hang out. I told myself I'd nurse a Coke, shoot some pool, still be part of the gang. I made it maybe 20 minutes. Nobody said anything mean, but the vibe was off, like I'd just shown up to a barbecue with a clipboard. I stood there holding my soda like it was radioactive while everyone else laughed harder than usual at nothing. I wasn't in on the jokes. The pool cue got handed past me. Even the bartender, Angela, who once hugged me when I lost my job for 2 weeks, gave me a distracted nod and moved on. I left before finishing my drink. When I got home, there was a message from Pete. "You good, bro?" That was it, no follow-up. I kept thinking it would pass, that maybe people just needed time to adjust, that maybe I needed to stop being so sensitive. But then Kyle, my own blood, forgot to invite me to his birthday get-together. I saw it later on Instagram, all of them laughing over steaks at someone's backyard setup. Even had an inside joke t-shirt made, something about "the beer gods deliver." I zoomed in on the picture. Darren had his arm around Kyle. Pete was shotgunning a Bud Light. Someone had scribbled "Where's Ray" on a napkin and left it in the corner of the frame like a punchline. I wasn't laughing. It wasn't just the guys either. Even my sister started acting weird. She used to lean on me when stuff got hard with her ex or the girls were sick. But now it's like I became this clean, sober version of myself that made her uncomfortable, like I was judging her. We were supposed to go in on a birthday gift for our dad, and she sent me the Venmo request without saying a word. No call, no "you want to go in together," like we always did. I called her up. "Hey, did I do something?" Long pause. "No, Ray, you didn't do anything, you're just different now." That hit harder than any bar tab I'd ever racked up. I started going to a support group at the community center, even though I swore I didn't need one. The average age was around 50. A couple guys my age, but nobody I knew from my side of town. We sat in a circle on metal chairs and talked about triggers, about boundaries, about finding your new normal. I nodded along, smiled, said the right things. But every time I went home, it was like walking into a house that used to have music in it, and now it was just static. No game invites, no late-night texts, no laughs echoing off the group thread. I was getting better and lonelier by the day. One night I cracked. It was late, raining hard, the kind of night where everything feels closer than it is. I opened the fridge, stared at the six-pack my cousin left behind months ago, still shoved in the back behind a jar of mustard and some expired yogurt. I reached for it. Hand on the neck of the bottle. Paused. Then I shut the fridge. Sat down on the floor in the dark. And cried. I hadn't done that since I was 17. That was 4 months ago. I'm still sober, still holding the line, still figuring out how to fill the spaces where the noise used to be. But I won't lie, it feels like I swapped one addiction for another, people. And now they're gone too. It was a Thursday when I first realized I didn't have a single person to call. That sounds dramatic, I know, but I mean it literally. I was standing in line at the DMV, bored, irritated, hungry, and I instinctively reached for my phone to text someone, anyone, just to complain. And then I scrolled. And scrolled. Every name I landed on felt distant. Don't bother him, he's probably busy. She hasn't reached out in months. That guy only texts when he needs help moving. I locked my phone and stared at the scuffed floor tiles. That loneliness, it wasn't an accident. It was engineered by 1,000 little choices. Most of them weren't mine. It wasn't always like this. I used to be the guy who could rally a group chat into poker night with one message, who could swing by Pete's place with a six-pack and somehow end up watching reruns of Cops until 2 in the morning. I was the fun one, the laid-back guy, the raise always down friend. But I guess always down really just meant always drinking. I didn't realize how much of my identity was tied to a bottle until I stopped holding one. Now I felt like a bad imitation of myself. And nobody seemed interested in the knockoff. 3 weeks after the non-invite to Kyle's birthday party, I saw him at the gas station near my place. He was getting a Red Bull and a lottery ticket. I was grabbing some gum. Yo, I said, keeping it casual. He turned, eyebrows lifted like he was still placing me. Then, hey man. No hug, no joke, just a nod. You been good? I asked. Yeah, he said, busy. He shifted like he was halfway out the door already. You all had a good time at your birthday, huh? I added just to see if he'd say anything. His jaw twitched. Oh yeah, just a last-minute thing. Sure. Long pause. Look, Ray, nobody's mad at you or anything. You kinda ghosted, bro. I blinked. Ghosted. You stopped showing up. I stopped drinking. Same thing to most people. That one hit like a brick. I walked home from that encounter, didn't drive, I needed the time. I thought about what Kyle said and the brutal honesty of it. To them, I hadn't quit drinking, I'd quit them. But I didn't disappear, I just changed. Isn't that supposed to be a good thing? Apparently not if your change makes people question their habits, not if it disrupts the rhythm of the group. I used to be the guy they drank with, not around. And without that shared ritual, we had nothing left in common. I brought this up at the support group the next evening. There was this older guy there, Dave, 70s Vietnam vet, rode his bike to every meeting, even in the rain. Grizzled but warm, like someone who's made peace with his demons and now just offers directions to others still stuck on the trail. He listened to my rant, nodding along. Then he said, sobriety is like cleaning out a flooded basement. You pull everything out expecting to find a few ruined boxes, but then you realize a lot of that stuff wasn't worth keeping in the first place. I didn't say anything. He leaned in. You didn't lose friends, kid. You lost drinking buddies. Big difference. I chewed on that for a while. The truth is, some of the people I was chasing didn't actually like me, they liked drunk me. The one who didn't say no, the one who didn't mind the same stories every week, the one who didn't care that their jokes were sometimes cruel or that their behavior got sloppy or that none of them remembered much the next day. Sober me, he notices. He remembers. And maybe that made me inconvenient. I tried to reconnect with people outside the circle. There was a guy named Omar I used to work with, solid dude, single dad into old school vinyl and sci-fi movies. We used to talk shop on job sites, but we'd never hung out one-on-one. I texted him, hey man, feel like grabbing lunch this weekend, my treat. He replied 10 minutes later, sure, Saturday work. We met up at a little Ethiopian spot near the old train tracks. No alcohol on the menu, just strong coffee, good food, and real conversation. And for the first time in months, I laughed without forcing it. When we left, Omar clapped me on the back and said, "We should do this again, no pressure." It was small, but it meant the world. A few days later, I went to visit my dad. He's not the sentimental type, taught me to drive with one hand on the wheel and the other holding a bag of pretzels, but he noticed things. We were watching a football game, him in his recliner, me on the couch nursing a soda. At halftime, he muted the TV. "You holding steady?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, "some days are rough, but yeah." He nodded. "You seem clearer." "Thanks." He scratched his chin. "Your Uncle Rick quit back in '92, lost every friend he had in 6 months." I raised an eyebrow. But my dad continued. 20 years later, when he died, his funeral was packed. People he helped, people he mentored, not a beer gut among them. I smiled. He didn't say anything else. Didn't have to. Still, there were cracks. One night I caved and went back to Murphy's. I told myself it was just for wings, just to watch the game, just to feel normal. Angela was working. She saw me, gave a polite nod, and poured me a water before I could even ask. No beer, no question. That small act, it should have felt respectful. It felt like a wall. Pete was there. He waved. I waved back, but neither of us moved. I sat through the first quarter. Nobody asked me to join their table. I left before halftime. That night I scrolled my contacts again. I didn't text anyone. But I didn't delete them either. I just let them sit there. Like empty seats in a theater I no longer performed in. 3 months sober became 6. Then 8. Then the year mark came. I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd surprise me. A message, a group card, a proud of you man. Nothing. So I bought a cupcake from the grocery store, one candle, lit it alone in my kitchen. And you know what? It still tasted sweet. It was a Sunday afternoon when I ran into Carla again. We used to date, nothing dramatic, just one of those slow fades where nobody cheats, nobody yells, but somehow the calls stretch thin and then vanish altogether. It had been almost 2 years. I saw her coming out of the plant nursery on 5th, juggling a bag of soil, a potted fiddle leaf fig, and her phone wedged under her chin. I offered to help before I even thought it through. "Oh my God, Ray," she blinked, half shocked, half smiling. "You're still around." I shrugged, lifting the bag into her trunk. "I live 5 blocks from here." "Right," she said. "I just figured, well, I don't know what I figured." She didn't ask what I was doing there. But she did say, "You look good, clearer, I guess." There it was again, clearer. I was starting to hate that word. We stood in the parking lot a while, catching up. She asked if I was still working HVAC, if I still played softball on weekends, if I'd been to any live shows lately. I said no to all 3. She raised an eyebrow. "What happened to Mr. Social?" "Quit drinking," I said flatly. Her smile faltered for a second, like she'd just stepped on glass barefoot. "Oh," she said, "wow. Yeah. That's good, right? It's supposed to be." The silence stretched. Then she asked carefully, "You seeing anyone?" I shook my head. "Not really, just trying to figure myself out again." She hesitated, then said, "I get that." But the way she said it, it sounded like she didn't. That night I sat on my stoop with a lukewarm cup of peppermint tea. The neighborhood was quiet, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of quiet where you can hear your thoughts too clearly, the kind that makes the air feel heavier. I opened Instagram and scrolled. There was Pete again, grinning at a brewery opening downtown. Darren had posted a story clinking glasses with someone I didn't recognize. Even Kyle had shared a photo from some cabin trip, fire pit glowing, bottles everywhere. None of them tagged me. None of them had for over 9 months. I watched each clip twice before closing the app. Then I sat in the dark for a long time, listening to the silence like it owed me something. The following weekend, I went to my niece Emily's softball game. She's 9, has a mean swing for a kid her size. I stood by the fence with a travel mug of coffee and cheered like a maniac. I even made a dumb sign that said "M Slams" in glitter glue and neon poster board. She blushed when she saw it. After the game, my sister approached. "You didn't have to go all out," she said, half smiling. "I wanted to." She softened a bit. You've been showing up more lately. I nodded, I'm trying. We stood there a moment, watching Emily chase her little sister through the grass. Then my sister said, it's weird, you're doing the right thing, but it still feels like we're all adjusting to the new you. I know. She looked down. I think I got used to having someone else to point at, like, at least I'm not messing up like Ray. Oof. She said it gently, but it still landed like a punch. I get it, I said, I probably made that easy. She blinked, you're not gonna bite my head off. I smiled, I used to, I don't anymore. She reached out and squeezed my shoulder. I'm proud of you. That one I didn't expect. And this time I believed her. A few weeks later, Omar invited me to his place for dinner. His daughter was there, shy at first, but warmed up after I helped her untangle the cords behind her video game console. His living room smelled like cumin and cilantro, the ceiling fan clicked every few seconds, and there was jazz humming low in the background. Over dinner, Omar looked at me and said, you ever think about mentoring? Like kids? Yeah, or guys coming out of rehabs, you've got that calm thing now, like you've been through it but you didn't get bitter. I almost laughed, I've got plenty of bitterness, trust me. He shrugged, but you manage it. I didn't say yes that night, but I thought about it the whole bus ride home. At the 1 year and 3 month mark, I wrote a letter. Not a drunk text, not a bitter voicemail. Just a letter. I sent it to Pete. It said, hey man. I don't know what happened exactly, maybe I changed too fast or maybe I didn't explain it right, but I miss you. I miss laughing at nothing and arguing about the game and being part of something that didn't feel so damn hollow. I'm not angry, I just wanted to say I'm still here, still Ray, just without the haze. If you ever want to grab coffee, I'd like that. No pressure. I never got a reply. But I don't regret sending it. That same month, I signed up to volunteer at a youth center on Saturdays. Nothing big, just helping run basketball drills, keeping kids from fighting over the dodgeballs, handing out orange slices and high fives. It was simple, but it filled a space that had been hollow for a long time. And one day, this kid, Louis, 11, missing a front tooth, he handed me a paper plate with a slice of pizza and said, you're cool, Coach Ray. I smiled, why that? You don't yell, you just listen. And I swear something unclenched in my chest for the first time in a year. There are still bad days. Days where I pass a bar and smell the comfort in old wood and spilled beer. Days where I scroll my phone too long, wondering if anyone's thinking of me. Days where I question if this was worth it, if trading laughter and late nights for clarity and quiet really made me better. But there are also days where I sit in my kitchen and watch the sun spill across the counter and think, I know who I am now. I couldn't say that before. There's this thing that happens when you stop numbing yourself. You feel everything, the good, the bad, the stuff you buried so deep you forgot it had a shape. For me, that shape looked a lot like guilt. It hit me out of nowhere on a Thursday morning, brushing my teeth. I stared at my reflection and saw a version of myself I didn't fully recognize, not because I looked different, but because I was finally seeing. And I realized I'd hurt people too. Not in some cinematic, smash the walls, burn the bridge way, but in those subtle, soul-wearing ways. Missed birthdays, ignored texts, slurred half-promises, too many nights where my phone died and so did their trust in me. The people who were avoiding me now. Maybe they weren't punishing me. Maybe they were just tired. I started reaching out, not to pull people back, but to apologize. Real apologies, no, but I was going through it. No excuses, just accountability. I called Sarah, an old coworker. We used to be close until I bilayed on a presentation we were supposed to lead together. I'd gone out the night before, drank too much, overslept. I never owned up. So I found her on LinkedIn, messaged her, and asked if I could talk. She agreed. 10 minutes into the call, I said, you carried the weight when I should have had your back. I was drinking too much and I didn't want to admit it, but that's on me, I'm sorry. She was quiet, then she said, that really messed with my confidence, you know. I know, I said, and I'm sorry for that too. We didn't become friends again, but she said she appreciated the call. That was enough. Little by little, I started piecing together a version of my life that wasn't built around being the fun guy. Because the truth was, fun had been my armor. If I kept people laughing, they wouldn't notice how lost I was. If I kept the beer flowing, I wouldn't have to look at the parts of myself I didn't like. But now there was no distraction, just me, raw, flawed, learning to be okay with silence. It was terrifying. It was also the most honest I'd ever been. 2 months after I reached out to Pete, still no response, I got a call from Darren. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hey," I said cautiously. "Ray," he said, "can we talk?" We met at a diner, neutral territory. No alcohol, just eggs and coffee and the dull clink of silverware on ceramic. He didn't beat around the bush. "We didn't know what to do with you after you quit," he said. "It was weird, like you left the group without leaving." "I didn't mean to," I said. "I just couldn't be that guy anymore." "I get it now," he said. "Back then it felt like you were judging us." "I was. But you were different, and different made us feel bad." I nodded. I probably would have reacted the same way a few years ago. He looked down. "We missed you." "Then why didn't anyone say anything?" "Because we felt guilty, man, like we'd driven you to it." I shook my head. "I drove myself to it. You guys were just part of the routine." He cracked a small smile. "You sound like a monk now." "I still swear when I stub my toe." We both laughed. It felt real. After that, a few more messages trickled in. "Kyle sent a text, heard you talked to Darren, wanna come over for the game Sunday." I hesitated. Then typed back, "Appreciate it, but not yet." Not because I was angry. Because I wasn't ready to test those waters with old expectations still floating in them. I needed space to keep becoming this version of myself before returning to rooms built for him. One night I was cleaning out a drawer and found a photo from 2 years ago. A group shot: me, Pete, Darren, Kyle, a few others, all of us sweaty and sunburnt at some beer festival. I had a plastic cup in one hand and a huge grin on my face. I looked happy. But I remembered how I threw up in the parking lot later, how I lost my wallet, how I called someone at 3 a.m. crying and didn't remember it. The grin wasn't the whole story. It rarely is. Instead of throwing the photo away, I tucked it back in the drawer. Not out of nostalgia, but as a reminder that guy was part of me, but he doesn't drive anymore. One Saturday, I met Omar at the community center again. He was hosting a panel about mental health in trades jobs. Blue-collar men don't talk feelings much, but they show up when someone says, "Hey, let's talk about stress and burnout." I sat in the back, listened, took notes. Later, Omar introduced me to a guy named Leon, mid-30s, just out of a treatment program looking for steady work. We ended up grabbing coffee after, swapped stories, similar beats, different lyrics. He said, "I'm scared everyone's going to leave." I said, "Some might, but the ones who stay, they're the real ones." Then I handed him a card, just my number scribbled on a napkin. "Call if you need to talk," I said. He looked at it like it was gold. That night I got home, sat on my couch and looked around my apartment. It wasn't much, a hand-me-down coffee table, couch with a sag in the middle, half-dead plant in the window, but it was mine. It was quiet. And for the first time, that didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. Last month I ran into Pete again, this time outside the grocery store. I was coming out with a bag of oranges and some boxed tea. He was going in, earbuds in, half distracted, nearly walked right past me until we locked eyes. We both stopped. He pulled out an earbud. "Ray." "Hey." There was a beat of silence, then he said, "You got a minute?" We sat on the curb out of the way of the carts and chatter, the sun high and sharp overhead. I handed him an orange out of habit and he peeled it absent-mindedly like it was a peace offering. "I read your letter," he said finally. "I figured." Didn't know how to respond. I nodded. I didn't send it for a reply. He turned the orange peel over in his hand. It messed me up a little, not gonna lie. "Yeah. I always told myself we were just having fun, that the drinking, it was just part of the game, you know." "Me too." He glanced at me, "But you walked away, and I didn't, and that made me feel like maybe I was doing it wrong." "You weren't," I said. "You were doing what worked for you." "But it didn't work for you." "No," I said, quiet, "it didn't." Another silence. Then he asked, "So what does work for you now?" That was the first time anyone had asked me that since I quit. It stopped me cold. What did work for me now? Not bars, not pretending, not constantly performing chill guy Ray for a crowd that only remembered the punchlines and not the pauses. What worked now was smaller, quieter. Early mornings, coffee that stayed warm all the way through, late night texts from people who remembered I existed, teaching kids how to shoot hoops, apologizing without expecting a parade, reading a book and actually remembering the plot. And peace, unearned, uneasy, imperfect peace. I told Pete some of that, not all, just enough. He nodded. I'm happy for you, man, really. Then he stood up, brushed off his jeans. Maybe we grab coffee sometime. Yeah, I said, that'd be good. He started toward the doors, then paused. Hey, he added, you were always more than just the beer. He didn't wait for me to respond. That night I walked past Murphy's for the first time in months, not out of longing, just habit. I stood across the street for a second. The neon sign buzzed like always. The windows fogged from the inside. I could make out laughter, music, clinking glass, familiar outlines through blurry glass. I wasn't angry. I wasn't tempted. I just wasn't part of it anymore. And that was okay. Inside my apartment, I flipped on the light, kicked off my boots, and set my groceries down. There was a voicemail on my phone. Omar. Hey man, one of the kids asked if Coach Ray's coming back this weekend. Just figured I'd let you know, they miss you. I smiled. Then I opened the fridge, poured myself a glass of ginger ale, and sat down. 1 year, 10 months, and 3 days sober. Not counting. Just noticing. There's this thing that happens when you quit drinking to fix your life. You lose people. You gain clarity. And sometimes when you least expect it, you come back to yourself. Oh, this time for real. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.